This publicity stunt was a scar that Chicago didn't earn and certainly didn't deserve.
When you use hatred and bigotry and lying and you're a young black kid, you get indicted. If you do it when you're an old white guy, you become president.
It's just outrageous what the left is doing, the false narratives that they are establishing.
The father of an ISIS bride is suing Trump administration to bring her home. Hoda Mathana's family wants to affirm she is an American citizen.
This video is shocking. A conservative activist attacked while recruiting at UC Berkeley.
This person claimed we were promoting violence on campus and proceeded to take his aggression out on us.
Michael Bublé hands the microphone over to a fan and she blows him away. Until 5 o'clock, the dancing begins.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much for joining us. And once again today, that's the lead story right there.
And next to Brian.
Right. So Jussie might be facing justice.
Yeah, straight to this Fox News alert. Actor Jussie Smollett is maintaining his innocence still, as Chicago police accuse him of plotting an elaborate hate crime.
At this hour, Smollett is out on bond and already back on the set of Empire, where he apologized and said he's innocent.
But is he? Matt Finn is live in Chicago with why prosecutors believe this was all a big publicity stunt. Matt, not a lot of mystery here. They spelled the whole thing out.
Well, Chicago's police superintendent and state prosecutors are slamming Smollett, saying that he did concoct this elaborate hoax that involved a fake death threat letter and a staged attack on the streets of Chicago. But Jussie Smollett's legal team is fighting back, writing in a statement in part, quote, "We witnessed an organized law enforcement spectacle that has no place in the American legal system. Mr. Smollett is a young man of impeccable character and integrity who fiercely and solemnly maintains his innocence and feels betrayed by a system that apparently wants to skip due process and proceed directly to sentencing. Police and prosecutors allege Smollett carried out with a fake attack because that death threat letter with a MAGA return address did not get him enough attention. Police say Smollett cut the Osundairo brothers a $3,500 check to pretend to beat him on the streets of Chicago. He instructed them to shout, 'This is MAGA country,' and to call him racial and homophobic slurs and to put a noose around his neck. In a packed courtroom yesterday, a judge publicly chastised Smollett, saying the noose, if true, is the most disturbing part because it conjures up the greatest evil in this country's history. Chicago's police superintendent says this city embraced Smollett and then he turned around and slapped it in the face. Absolute justice would be an apology to this city that he smeared, admitting what he did, and then be man enough to offer what he should offer up in terms of all the resources that were put into this. The FBI is investigating the alleged death threat letter. If it determines that Smollett played a role in it or sent it to himself, he faces serious federal charges. Jussie Smollett did return to the Empire set here in Chicago shortly after he was released from jail yesterday. He is set to appear in court on the charge of filing a false police report next month. Back to you guys.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
Shameless. The whole thing is shit. How does you watch the police superintendent spell out exactly what you do in detail? They have the two witnesses you paid, the check that you wrote, the magazine where the letters were cut out were found in the brother's house.
You got the phone records that show he called them before the attack, after the attack, when they were in another country.
It's like he's living on another scene, like from another movie. He's cutting out letters from magazines and putting it on that letter that he sent to himself.
Right.
Making up this whole thing, allegedly.
True. Apparently the plan was, okay, attack me near my apartment, beat me up, but not too bad.
They think he beat himself up. They thought he punched himself.
They said that the brothers wore gloves during the stage attack and did punch him, but the scratches and the bruises on his face most likely self-inflicted. But the part that Matt just read from the legal team, there was one more line, and the legal team, his legal team, put out why they feel he has been wrongly accused and is being railroaded. They said that this all happened on the eve of a mayoral election.
Well,
in other words, they're suggesting it's political.
Exactly.
The only political stuff I remember from this case is when he told people that the people who beat him up were talking about MAGA.
Well, and then you watch that Robin Roberts interview now, and you're like, oh my gosh, he was crying in that interview. All an act. If he really did this, if he made up all this hoax. He went to the Empire set, according to TMZ yesterday, and they have They have another week and a half of shooting, basically another week of shooting. So they need to finish out this episode and a half that they have left. So I'm sure they're wondering, do we replace him with someone else who looks like him? Do we keep him acting because he hasn't been proven guilty yet? But he looked at the crowd that he acts with and he says, I'm so sorry I've put you all through this. I'm sorry I haven't answered your calls. I want to say that I'm sorry. You know me. I would never do any of this. You're my family. I swear to God, I did not do this. Still doubling down.
And I read that TMZ report, and it said that several cast members want him written out immediately, but other cast members believe him because they cannot fathom him pulling off a hoax like this.
He's beyond a sociopath. He gives a bad name to sociopaths. And just think about this. It's so obvious if you see the police superintendent say what he said and the details in which this case was unwound and presented. However, it's amazing how some still don't want to blame the guy who made up the entire story. Listen.
I don't know if it's up to us to make some sense of it. And I will not throw him under the bus. Is it a big, bad mistake? Absolutely. But a lot of people have made some awful, big, bad mistakes. Now, we can make up whatever we want to make up about it. But he told a lie the same way the leader of this country does every day.
When you use hatred and bigotry and lying for your own selfish end and you're a young black kid, gay black kid, you get indicted. If you do it when you're an old white guy, you become president.
I still don't know all of the details. I'm waiting for the final results of all of this. If, in fact, it's a hoax, of course I would be disappointed.
Does she have audio on her television? Did she see what goes on? Does she understand? Does she understand the two black guys from Nigeria? Well, actually, via America. Or does she believe the actor? So you can't have it both ways.
Ultimately, he's been charged, and now the whole case is going to be adjudicated. It certainly was damning the way the superintendent laid it out, but then again, and he made it very clear. We didn't know the story from the brothers until the 47th hour of the 48 hours they were able to keep him. Had they not spilled the beans in that 47th hour, they would have gone free 1 hour later, and nobody would have known.
Yeah, one difference was in the last minute they decided no bleach, no gasoline, we'll use bleach instead, but it does not add up. It does not make sense. He wasted a lot of man hours, a lot of goodwill, and it's amazing how people now want to wait, in some cases, for the final verdict to come in, but as soon as he made the complaint, everyone believed him and willing to say, that's typical Donald Trump supporters. It sounds exactly what will happen in the streets of Chicago at 2 in the morning at -5 degrees.
Rush Limbaugh was saying the same thing. He was saying basically that the media and all those out there that were rushing to condemn the attacker, that they really wanted the story to be true.
How do you know what Rush said?
Sometimes I listen to him.
Okay, let's go.
The left is nothing but phony hate crimes. Phony alleged hate crimes, phony charges, made-up stories. You know these things probably aren't true, but they want them to be, and that's why they report them as true. So, in the mind of the American left, these crimes are happening everywhere. Even if the Smollett case isn't real, it's real elsewhere, and we must raise consciousness. It's just outrageous what the left is doing to this country, the picture of this country that they're painting each and every day, the false narratives that they are establishing, many of which they know to be untrue.
It's a commercial.
And then he did go to and so apparently the story is MAGA he scripted, directed, and starred in his own hate crime, all for a raise. According to the police, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Jesse was making $125,000
How do you live on
every episode.
You can't live on that.
Somehow they do. Meanwhile, let's talk about Showtime. They've got a program called DeSeuss and Mero, and they had on it 3 of the freshman congresswomen. They had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, and Ilhan Omar, and they filmed it in AOC's office, and they talked about why is it the 3 of you have wound up with so much publicity, and in particular, Tlaib made headlines when she said on the night everybody was sworn into the House that she was going to impeach the president and referred to him in awful language. Listen to this.
And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
So those 2 comedians on Showtime, they asked, it's a show that comes on late night, and they asked the 3 freshman congresswomen why they say that. Can you explain why you're saying that about the president? Listen to this.
This is my girl Ilhan from.
Right. And it seems like we're all radical because we deeply care about the people that we represent and we want to throw down for them.
So they're deeply radical because they care about the people they represent.
Keep it real. Keep it real, everyone.
Like, I know exactly what you mean.
Like you do?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, that's coming, it reveals the mindset, and the three of them have gotten so much publicity, and that's what they were talking about. Why do you think so many members of the press are interested in what you're saying?
Right. And I would believe that AOC would be well going to bat for her own people if she had an office in Queens. She has yet to find an office. So how could you represent the people if you have no place to go?
She's a little busy.
Yeah.
She's a little busy.
All right, so what do you think? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, 7-Eleven here in New York City. Some liberal cities are proud to be sanctuaries, including New York City. But now Florida, the state of, is one step closer to banning sanctuary cities in the entire state. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi here to weigh in next.
Plus, they must be feeling down in the mouth why the Tooth Fairy is getting cheap with kids.
Every 15 minutes, Fox News headlines 24/7, channel 115.
We will stand for the rule of law. We will not allow sanctuary cities, and we will stop incentivizing illegal immigration, which is unfair to our legal immigrants, promotes lawlessness, and reduces wages for our blue-collar workers.
The state of Florida is one step closer to fulfilling Governor Ron DeSantis' promise on banning so-called sanctuary cities. A new bill just approved by the Florida State Senate Judiciary Committee would require state and local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. And cities that don't cooperate could be fined up to $5,000 a day, and that would get their attention. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi joins us right now from Tallahassee with the very latest. Pam, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Now, when you were Attorney General, I know you and Governor Scott would occasionally get these the burn grants, which was money from the federal government to extend to localities to help them with law enforcement. But there was a stipulation, and that is got to cooperate with the feds, right?
You have to cooperate with the feds. And Governor Scott and I both had to say that to get this money, all of our police chiefs wanted it, all of our sheriffs, for good reasons, and it also goes to Project Safe Neighborhoods. And to get this money, you had to say that you're not going to have sanctuary cities. And the word sanctuary city, it's a bit misleading because these aren't just all great people there. You don't know who's there. You don't know if a sex offender could be mixed in with people who are there. And so it's lawful for ICE to come in and they have to follow the law, these cities. And this is a lot of money to help keep our streets, our kids, our citizens safe. And so I'm so proud of Governor DeSantis, and Senator Joe Gruters sponsored this bill, and Joe did a great job at this. It's very important for our state and protecting our kids and all of our citizens.
Well, you know, one of the problems that we have unfortunately become too aware of over the last number of years is when there's a sanctuary city and they are holding somebody who is wanted by the federal government, is a criminal alien, and the federal government wants to start the process to get them out of the country if that is how that case has been adjudicated. But a lot of these sanctuary cities don't cooperate with ICE, and next thing you know, this criminal alien is back out on the street. Now, if Florida is considering this ban, does that mean some city is on the verge of declaring, you know what, we've decided we want to be a sanctuary city?
Well, we don't want that to happen for the reasons I just discussed, for the safety of our citizens. And we're all, our state, I hope our whole country is about legal immigration. That's what we're founded on. But that's protecting people who have federal detainers. And you can't violate federal law, nor should you want to. And we also want to protect our citizens with all this great grant money that my state got, and multiple states throughout the country got. So yes, if ICE has a detainer, it's pretty much common sense. A city has to follow the law, and it's a shame that we need legislation like this, but we do. And hopefully it will pass, and I'm certain Governor DeSantis, he's doing a great job, will sign it.
Well, you know, I'm sitting in New York City, and, you know, it's a sanctuary city, so it's a whole different scenario up here. Florida Democratic Senator Javier Rodriguez put out this statement, said there's a lot of things we ought to be doing to try to make communities safer and try to deal with the issues of racial profiling, and what this bill does is the opposite. It really forces all levels of local government to engage with the federal government in ways that currently are not required by law and make their decisions and their missions more difficult. I'll give you 20 seconds to respond.
Well, this is about the rule of law in the most basic form. It's called following the law. And our cities and counties can't disregard federal law. Federal law will always trump state law, and they have to comply with it. And it is keeping our citizens safe, because we have to background people too to know, what if you had a registered, and I'm not saying the majority of these people are, but what if you had a registered sex offender? You're not going to know it. A child molester, you're not going to know it. So this is about keeping our citizens safe, and immigration the legal way.
All right. Pam Bondi, former Attorney General for Florida. Pam, thank you very much. Meanwhile, shocking video from the University of California at Berkeley. A conservative activist attacked while trying to recruit out in California. We're going to hear the story and see the pictures coming up.
Oh,
Front View News by the numbers. First, 60,000. That's the cost of a trip Democrats took to see a Beyonce concert. In December, 5 members of the Congressional Black Caucus flew to South Africa for the Global Citizen Mandela 100 concert. It was paid for by a nonprofit. Next, $5 million. That's how much New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration must pay for claiming ineligible FEMA funds. The city claimed 132 Department of Transportation vehicles were ruined in Superstorm Sandy, but they were damaged before the storm, or they were already junked before the storm. The payout is part of a very substantial settlement. And $3.70, that's how much the average kid gets from the Tooth Fairy. That's a lot of change to leave under a pillow. According to the insurance firm Delta Dental Plans Association, her rate is going down for the second straight year. That is, the Tooth Fairies. All right, Brian?
we'll see if that affects the market.
What's the going rate nowadays?
Meanwhile, a conservative, as we switch gears, Ainsley, a conservative activist allegedly assaulted for promoting his conservative beliefs at UC Berkeley campus. This brutal attack caught on camera. Watch.
Jesus Christ. What?
Oh, gosh, poor guy. Alexander Sarka is a student at UC Berkeley and witnessed that exchange, and he joins us now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Alexander. Tell us what happened.
So effectively, what happened was I got out of class, and I went to Sproul Plaza, which is the main area on campus, in which students and other people are free to table and give out flyers, this sort of thing. And I noticed that there was a table that says something to the effect of, "Beware of false hate crimes." Obviously a reference to the recent Justice Smollett incident. And as soon as I noticed that, I was drawn to a verbal altercation that was occurring between the individual tabling, Hayden, and a few other people. And then that quickly escalated from a verbal altercation into a violent altercation where the table was flipped by the individual who you see punching the man. And then from there I started to record, and I was lucky enough to get the most egregious parts of the incident on camera.
But you didn't get everything. But first off, how is it that we haven't found this guy yet? You have a full shot of his face on video. I mean, come on. He's most likely a student who has a backpack on. Is any effort being made to find this guy?
Honestly, I can't weigh in on that. I know that the response from the university has been very weak sauce, in my opinion. The statement that Chancellor Carol Christ sent out was a very blanket condemnation of violence, and it really didn't go into the specifics of the case, despite the viral nature of this.
Let me read that statement so folks at home can make their own judgments. She says, "Let there be no mistake, we strongly condemn violence and harassment of any sort for any reason. At this point, we have no information indicating that the perpetrators are affiliated with the university, and I join our police department in urging anyone with information about the incident to come forward so we can apprehend and bring the perpetrator to justice." So you're not happy with that. You said it's 2 weeks,
right.
you saw?
Well, I'm not given the context because if you see the last statement that she sent out before that, it was about 3 times longer, and it went into much more specificity, much more what's the word? Much more
detail.
Much more emotion was behind it. You could obviously tell, and that was just addressing some comments that were made about certain faculty members being plants or agents of Chinese or Iranian governments. And while I agree with her statement that I completely agree with the tone and tenor that she took with that, she did not apply that same passion, that same specificity
what was
to this case.
What was Hayden Williams, the guy who got punched? He was on with Sean last night, Sean Hannity. What was his reaction? What was he doing? Is there anything we didn't see on this video? Because everyone wants to know the whole story when we see these videos now.
No, I definitely agree with. So you have to understand that I only briefly. It was just an extremely fortuitous event that I happened to be walking by when this event transpired very quickly. All I know is that he was standing there. He was at the table, and he was obviously had provocative material for Berkeley.
Yeah, for Berkeley, because he said, beware of false hate crimes. Why should that be offensive to anybody?
Within the Berkeley context, it's offensive because it's like, obviously they're like making fun of like the Jussie Smollett incident. That's obviously the perception here.
Well, put it this way. Look at the face. Look at the video. Any officer in that area knows who this guy is. They can find him in 9 seconds. So they're not making any effort.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm simply just saying, I've come on this show because I want to prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law. Yeah. And I've been talking to every media outlet I can from across the political spectrum because I absolutely believe that he should be prosecuted and apprehended.
You're well-spoken. We appreciate you getting this on video so that we can find out who this person is and police can get to the bottom of it. Thank you so much for being brave.
Right.
Absolutely. It's good to be here.
That guy should have been arrested already. Meanwhile.
All right, 30 minutes after the top of the hour, a state senator trashing the American flag, comparing Old Glory to a swastika. The comments sparking outrage this morning.
Plus, Democrats say we don't need a wall. Pete Hegseth just got back.
Celebrities, news commentators, and even presidential candidates weighed in on something that was choreographed by an actor. Smollett attempted to gain attention by sending a false letter that relied on racial, homophobic, and political language. We have problems that have affected people from all walks of life, and we know that. But to put the national spotlight on Chicago for something that is both egregious and untrue is simply shameful.
And so many people have said that since then. That's the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. Pete Hegseth joins us right now. Pete, I'm sure you were watching the live feed from Chicago as he explained the case against Jussie Smollett, who it sounds like made it up to get more money from his job at Fox.
Yeah, good for him. So, the police department. I should define who him is. Good for this police chief. How he said it, how he laid it out, what he talked about, the time wasted, the money wasted, and how it hurts real victims when you make false claims, let alone false racial claims that inflame things that we as a country have been overcoming for 240 years. You overcome 3/5 of a person in the Constitution, you overcome slavery, you overcome Jim Crow, discrimination against gays and females, and then in this particular case, you add to it the symbol of a noose. It's so irresponsible.
You put everything in one.
Everything into one. That it raised eyebrows at the beginning. Turns out that it's all fake. And a big problem here, too, is Jussie Smollett thought he would benefit from being seen as a victim. The mindset that says, if I'm seen as a victim of a MAGA supporter, of a Trump supporter, I'm going to benefit in Hollywood. I'm going to do better for myself. And I'm going to build up the characterization that anyone who voted for President Trump, who believes in making America great again, is a racist. And he just made the problem a lot worse.
I think your point is dead on, because I think so many Americans, we want to improve our country. We've come so far. We want to get away from certain stereotypes. And it's like 3 steps forward, and this just can take us back so many steps. And we've come so far.
Could have had huge riots out of this.
Yes, you can love your country deeply and still recognize her sinful and flawed past. What do you choose to focus on? The shared freedom we have together, the shared beliefs of rights endowed by God from a creator, that we're all created equally. That is the founding premise of America. Instead, we choose to focus on gender or skin color or sexual orientation as what defines a person. Put that all aside and let's figure out about what we actually believe in.
In politics, the number one story has been the wall. Building of the wall, 22 miles in New Mexico, time-lapse video. The president had it on his feed yesterday. But the president liked the Israeli model originally. And the Israeli model you saw up close and personal.
That's right. So I was in Jerusalem this entire week. We had a chance during that time to spend time with Danny Terza. He was a colonel in the IDF. He was responsible for building 455 miles of fencing and walls in Israel. I got a chance to speak with him briefly and asked him, hey, does it work? This is what he had to say. To those that say walls are ineffective, you say
that they don't know what they're talking about. Look what happens in Gaza. If the fence won't be there, they will be in Tel Aviv.
Walls work.
Walls work.
How effective have walls been for Israel?
Well, from 2000 till the end of 2006, we had in Israel more than 3,000 terror attacks. We lost in this period 1,562 people that were murdered by terror attacks.
Okay, so clearly it works. And before they built the wall, how much protest was against it?
There was a great deal of protest against it. International protest against it. Because the border lines there, as you all know, have been under dispute for millennia, centuries, decades now in the modern times. So drawing those lines wasn't hard, let alone you're doing it during intifadas and terror attacks. But they built it, and terror attacks plummeted.
And they rarely have anyone that tries to get over the wall. Right?
Because you can't get over it. Because it's a combination of sensors, fencing, walls, guards. But you'll also watch people go back and forth from Judea and Samaria into Jerusalem every single day. So the walls also have big doors, so people can come through legally, and you know who's coming through.
Now, what's up for you for Fox Nation?
For Fox Nation, so I was in Jerusalem for a week because we're doing a documentary for Fox Nation called Battle in the Holy City, the secret story of Jerusalem. We got exclusive access that no one's ever had, interviews that have never been had, behind-the-scenes stuff that's never been on camera. So coming up on Fox Nation, remember, Netflix for conservatives.
Okay, so that's Fox Nation. Do you have time to do your other job, Fox and Friends Weekend?
On occasion.
Will you be here tomorrow?
It's going to be a great weekend. Once again, I asked Brian to be here this weekend, and he won't be. But we have we haven't, have we?
Never.
Consider this a formal invitation.
Okay,
every single weekend. No, we've got a special musical performance. Yeah, every weekend. You can come join us anytime you want. But we got a great slate of guests, and we'll have a ton of fun.
All right, did you buy an apartment in Jerusalem?
No, but I found one I really liked. Listen, I've spent a lot of time there. Loved it.
Been there more than you've been home.
Don't tempt me.
All right.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, Pete. You don't do this on the weekends, but we do. We toss to news. Hey, Jillian.
Hi. Brian doesn't work enough, so I think that you should
add
one more day.
Yeah, he needs to work a little more. All right, let's get you caught up on your headlines, starting with this. Venezuela is bracing for protests after disputed President Nicolas Maduro closes the border with Brazil. The move cuts off the U.S. and other allies of opposition leader Juan Guaido from delivering much-needed aid to the country, suffering from an economic crisis. Maduro is accepting help from Russia. He is now considering shutting down the Colombian border. A Nebraska state senator compares the American flag to the Nazi swastika. Independent Ernie Chambers saying, quote, "When you show a way to persuade Jews to sanctify and worship the swastika, when you show me that, I'll come up here and stand while you all hypocritically pretend that rag is something that it definitely is not." A Republican is slamming that claim.
I think I speak for most of us that have worn the uniform. It rips our heart out to hear someone say that they refer to the flag as a rag because...
Chambers' comments were in response to a proposed bill to update civics requirements. A student is fighting to show support for the president at her high school. Maddie Mueller says she was denied permission to wear a MAGA hat on her campus in California. Well, she calls that a violation of the First Amendment.
How does being a patriot and trying to show pride in your country, how is that inappropriate?
The school dress code doesn't specify if political hats or shirts are allowed. Jeopardy host Alex Trebek knows who he'd pick to replace him.
It's probably going to be a woman. Yeah. It'll be somebody younger, somebody bright, somebody personable, somebody with a great sense of humor. So I nominated Betty White.
The host of Over 30 Years currently has no plans to retire. I just think Betty White is great at everything. So
remember, her husband was a great talk show, game show host, Alan Ludden.
That's right, and she was on a million game shows.
He said someone younger, Betty White.
You know who else is really good at game shows? Janice Dean.
Oh, is she?
Right.
She's very funny.
That's kind of you. I've always wanted to be the gal behind the doors, opening the door. And,
right.
You know that about me already. Listen, your name is Nick, and where are you from?
Long Island.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Maybe a meteorologist.
I love it. Look at this great crowd we have here today for Nick. Yeah! Nick, what are the current conditions in New York right now?
It's 40 degrees and partly cloudy.
Oh my gosh, you're hired! Excellent. Take a look at the temperatures right now. What is it in Florida right now?
It's hot.
Oh, excellent answer right there. Again, bonus points. 22 right now in Denver. I just want to make folks aware, if you live across the Southeast and the Mississippi and Tennessee River Valley, we have the potential for flooding this weekend and severe storms, a very spring-like severe weather setup where we could see some tornadoes tomorrow. Keep that in mind. There's your flood advisories. And then there's your severe threat as we go through Saturday. That's going to be a big deal. Out west, the Southwest, the desert Southwest, Nick, we have snow. You know that we had snow in Malibu, California yesterday. That's very rare. You know what else? You know Brian Kilmeade, don't you?
Yeah.
Is he as funny as he is on TV, off TV?
Yes.
That's a good answer. Brian, you paid him well.
Wow, that's very good.
You know that kid?
Right. Well, he's from Long Island, and I know everybody in Long Island.
There you go.
I do know him. And his dad is playing a vital role in the gang unit. He's not in a gang. He makes sure there are no gangs.
He's in law enforcement.
He says it's definitely improved out there on Long Island with this administration.
Takes on MS-13.
That's right. They're such a nice family. They've come to our book signings every time we're out in Long Island. They come and support us. So
we appreciate
all of you who do that.
All right. Meanwhile, 17 minutes before the top of the hour, we all saw basketball's top prospect get injured. Now
Mueller report before it's even out. What happens if Democrats don't get the results that they want? Former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer on that coming up next.
There'll be subpoenas from Congress, and if there are also no public disclosures, the public rightly will feel that there is a cover.
We are in a serious situation, congressional, constitutional crisis, with what I expect to be a very limited disclosure of Mueller's important revelations. Well, we're going to have to do our own investigation, and we are.
President Trump's critics are already pivoting on the Mueller report, which could wrap up next week. So what happens if the special counsel doesn't deliver what the Democrats have been praying for?
It was so rare to see his critics on CNN, it just kind of jarred me for a second. Here to weigh in is the former White House Press Secretary, Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer. All right, we have no idea what to expect. We do think that they won't drop it while he's in North Korea, so it's probably two weeks away. But your sense is, what's this document going to do? How is it going to change things?
My caution to everybody is keep your powder dry, because you do not know what Bob Mueller has unless you are one of the attorneys who represents somebody and his people have filled you in. And if you're not one of those people and you haven't talked to one of those people, just wait. Have the patience and the discipline not to get out in front of this story. Let's see what Bob Mueller has and doesn't have.
Will we all be able to see the report? Will that go public?
I hope so. The one area we should not see is the counterintelligence portion of it, which is significant, and there will be things in there that we as a nation and as government need to know about Russia and the things that they did, but to the ability we can use that to stop them the next time, we don't want it all out there. However, on the Trump, the collusion, the big elements that have rocked the faith of this country, is Trump colluding or not? This country deserves to know everything. We need to get this behind us one way or another, and if Mueller doesn't have the goods on Trump, the Democrats will owe him and the media a massive apology. If he's got the goods, Trump and his people need to deal with that. But let's just wait and see. But my sense of this thing is it's of huge magnitude, because for the Democrats, it's been everything. It's been the reason to oppose him.
Right. Ari, the other thing they say, Mueller's report will show a roadmap for Democrats to impeach. They'll say, this is what we have, now go follow these leads.
Well, if they have the goods, people need to know it. And if the goods are that bad, they'll speak for themselves. Absent that, the Democrats have a huge risk on their hands, because if they make this endless investigation and attempt to impeach when they don't have any evidence of collusion, this is going to boomerang terribly on the Democrats. Look, the Democrat vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine accused Donald Trump of engaging in treason. This is the language they're using to describe this presidency, and it's been that way from the start. Now, if they don't have any evidence, any proof, if Mueller says it's not there, the
Democrats are going to have a lot of backtracking and apologizing to do.
It's going to go from politics to business. Adam Schiff's already indicating. Don't worry about the Mueller report. I'm going to go after his business connections after. So that's the difference with this president. He actually has a business background.
Well, that's right, and you don't investigate people, you investigate crimes. But the Democrats, look, they've never accepted this presidency. You remember when he ran and people said, Trump won't accept the election? Democrats have never accepted this election. They're doing everything extra political to get him out.
All right. Thank you so much for being on with us.
All right, coming up straight ahead, got a big hour. Look at this. Geraldo Rivera, who I've met, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, who I also met, and Senator Tim Scott. Always great to see him.
A lot of hip-hop and rap music is built around me showing how I got more money than you. I can disrespect you and you can't do nothing about it. If you are very confident about your sexuality, you don't have to have 8 women around you twerking. Here we go. 5 seconds.
I've always said that.
There you go.
We're twerking.
Yeah.
Former President Obama slamming rappers for their own toxic masculinity.
That's right. That was in a town hall out in Oakland. Here was reaction co-host of the new show on PC on Fox Nation, Tyrus and Britt McHenry. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so the former president's talking about how rappers have this toxic masculinity. What does that mean, Tyrus?
I don't know if it's necessarily the rappers or the industry who assign the rappers, who dictate their videos, direct their videos.
It used to be a pretty for Snoop Dogg.
Listen, certain things are pretty attainable in this country. Getting a date, you have a job, buying a car, you have good credit, and money. So those are pretty easy things to rap about. So I never was a big fan of the rappers who rapped about simple things like that. But those things sell, and young kids particularly eat that stuff up. Grown-ass men like myself, we like the lyrics, like the guys who tell a story. It's marketing. It's just like rock and roll and anything else. And I actually thought what the president said was sound advice.
Well, and it's not just the men. I mean, we were talking backstage that Cardi B has 5 of the top 10 hits on the R&B chart, and she twerks and raps about this too. So it's just to sell records. I'm not personally offended. I don't think most millennials are either.
Fred, I know you're too humble to say this, but you were bragging that you had Dr. Drew on your show, right?
I like Dr. Drew.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and
They spent a lot of time together.
Really, align my life right and set things straight.
You asked him about Jonah Hill?
Yes, that was a topic of discussion, and actually that was a moment that you guys had, a bonding.
Should we relive
it? Yeah, but our moments were in front of the camera.
Let's relive it.
I would argue that if he really wants to put a bold light on toxic masculinity, double down on the comedy. All the time now, we're saying, oh no, this was taken out of the record. Take out the expunge from the record. Now I say, look, take a good hard look at it, double down on it, and let humor do its job. It's supposed to bring out truth.
Let humor do its job.
Yes, you spoke to this about comedians and the history of comedy.
This is my argument. I put censorship on comedy up there with telling reporters what they can and cannot say. Like, comedy heals. Like, it can make a group which is more diverse than the 4 of us sitting here at a park bench. We could look at somebody cracking a joke and all take something different and laugh about it together, opposed to each one of us talking about our political views. Comedy heals, and when you tell them what they can and cannot make fun of, it changes the things become more secretive and more violent because you can't say what's on your mind anymore.
Sure. Well,
humor's a good way to do that.
One of the things about your show is there's plenty of comedy in it. Check out new episodes of On PC with Britt and Tyrus. Go to foxnation.com to download the app right now and start a free 7-day trial.
Right. And don't be afraid to look at my series. What made it
Brian is in his second series.
I watch it all the time.
What's with all the Kings?